So the next session we have for you this morning is the Community, Humanitarian and International team. But before I introduce John and Laura and Ruth to you this morning, I would like to welcome Helen Hancock, who is part of the Bipolar UK team. She's going to come and talk to us about bipolar this morning. And Helen is our peer support officer in South Wales. And so without any further ado, I would like to hand over to Helen, and she will give us a presentation about bipolar. Thank you, Helen. I don't know, I'm trying to see you on the screen. Oh, good. I'm glad she's there.
I am here.
Excellent.
Thank you very much, Mary. Hello, everybody. I think Steve is going to share a presentation that we have. So, oh, sorry, Ian is doing that. Thank you, Ian. And I just wanted to say hello. As Mary said, my name is Helen Hancock, and I'm a peer support officer with Bipolar UK, which is my second career. Bipolar UK is the only UK charity that's specifically dedicated to supporting people who have a bipolar condition, and as importantly, their families, friends and loved ones. My specific role is as a peer support officer in Wales, and my brief, and I'm the first one appointed in Wales, is to expand the reach and quality of our peer support services across Wales, and including Southern Wales, where I'm based. I'm based in Cardiff. Could I have the next slide, please, Ian or Steve? So why am I here today? Well, I'm absolutely delighted to be here today, and thank you very much for inviting us. I'm here really to talk a bit about our wonderful partnership together, but Rotary has rather fantastically agreed to be our partner to help support our journey to reach more people across the UK and internationally with the peer support services, resources and advocacy that we provide. And that's why I'm here really, so that we can find ways to work together to support and enhance people's mental and emotional health and well-being across all of Southern Wales and across the whole areas in which we work. What I'm going to do today is just, first of all, I'm going to tell you a little bit about what bipolar is. If we could go to the next slide, please. And then I'm going to run a very short video, which will tell you a little bit more about bipolar. It's called Could It Be Bipolar? It's only about 3 minutes. I'm then going to talk a little bit about the various services that we're trying to promote in Wales and how we might work together to promote those services and help each other through that journey. And then there's time for questions if anybody's got any questions. So what is bipolar? It used to be It used to be called manic depression many years ago, and it's a very severe lifelong mental health condition characterized by extreme highs and lows. So at the most extreme, people can lose complete touch with reality and go into psychosis. And there is also a high risk of suicide for people with bipolar. Interestingly, at least 1 in 50 people in the UK are estimated to be living with bipolar. So that's over 1 million people. We think that the average is about 2% of the population will have a bipolar condition, which is more than have Alzheimer's. So it really is an important condition. I'm going to ask Steve and Ian now to just run a short video, which will tell you a bit more about that. And then I'll come back and talk a bit more after that.
Bipolar is a severe mental illness characterized by significant and sometimes extreme changes in mood and energy, which go far beyond what most people experience in terms of feeling a bit down or happy. Someone with bipolar can have long or short periods of stability, but they can then go low into a deep depression or high, experiencing hypomania, mania, or even psychosis. To help explain the extremes of mood, Bipolar UK uses a mood scale. It takes an average of up to 10 years to get a diagnosis of bipolar. Undiagnosed bipolar can be really difficult to live with.
I struggled from the age of 15, but I didn't get a diagnosis until I was 27. I spent years hiding in my flat and I was fearful of my own mind. I was then given a concoction of medication that wasn't working for me. My emotions were either numbed or I was out all night on benders. If I had received a diagnosis earlier, I could have lived the life I wanted, the life my peers were living.
I'd had suicidal thoughts for a long time when a GP diagnosed depression. For the next 12 months, I swung from serious low moods to elation. I slept all day and stayed up all night. I left my job. I believed I was a millionaire and tried to donate millions to Great Ormond Street. After staying awake for 3 nights, I ended up in hospital.
From the age of 14, I experienced severe ups and downs in mood that left both me and my family confused about what was going on. For a long time, I didn't want to access help because I was influenced by the stigma of mental illness. But when I finally received my diagnosis of bipolar, getting help from the right healthcare professionals who were clearly caring and knowledgeable meant I could gain stability and find hope.
Bipolar diagnosis isn't straightforward. There isn't a single test, and it doesn't show up in a brain scan. Diagnosis depends on specific and sudden changes in mood and behaviour and functioning, not explained by anything else. Getting a diagnosis is important because it means you can get the support and treatment you need.
Have you experienced low moods with little energy followed by periods of high energy when you've been productive, restless or irritable? Had times when you got very little sleep, taken more risks or maybe made impulsive decisions? Been told that you have treatment-resistant depression? Found antidepressants that don't help much, if at all? Do you have a family history of bipolar? If so, it's worth asking, could it be bipolar? Take the screening questionnaire on the Bipolar UK website today.
Thank you very much. So that tells you a little bit about bipolar with some personal experiences. A lot of the people who work with the charity have lived experience of bipolar or are family members of people with bipolar. What we did also in 2021, we launched a Bipolar Commission report. And the purpose of that report was to ensure that we could help transform the healthcare provided to people with bipolar conditions, which is notoriously difficult to diagnose and is not something that you can treat so that it disappears, but you can treat in order to minimize its effect. And that commission report was launched in 2021 at the end of the proper lockdown, but it was launched online on our World Bipolar Day conference on the 30th of March. But then last year in November, on the 8th of November, we launched it at the Houses of Parliament to great effect. And it increasingly is having an influence on our policy and advocacy side to increase the understanding of bipolar and also to enhance the services that people receive with bipolar conditions through the health services and other organisations. There are 22 bipolar commissioners combining professionals, lived experience people and people who help people with bipolar. And our Welsh bipolar commissioner is Jackie Dix, who has a bipolar condition herself, but is also a research and policy officer. It's been extremely well received, and we continue on that journey to this day. It's all about getting a quicker diagnosis. We talked about the average 10 years to diagnosis. That's 10 years not knowing that you've got a bipolar condition and 10 years not knowing how to deal with it. So that is a big part of our mission. Could we go to the next slide, please? So this is very simple, simply our mission, to empower everybody affected by bipolar to live well and fulfill their potential. So that's a combination of things. Some of the video participants talked about medication not working for them. Well, medication is an important part and can be a very important part for people with a bipolar condition to manage their condition. But it's also about a healthy lifestyle, sleep, good regular sleep. Sleep deprivation triggers bipolar. Exercise, really helpful. Good diet. Psychotherapy, so counselling and therapy services, talking therapies are really important, and unfortunately are not very available on the NHS at the moment because of lack of resource, and also support from friends and family. And what we try to do as a charity is to give that encompassing all-round peer support, which helps enhance all those different elements. Can we go to the next slide, please? So how do we do it? Well, quite simply, we are based on a peer support model, which means that we run a series of services which are co-facilitated or led by volunteers or people who either have lived experience of a bipolar condition or have a close connection to it, such as being a family member, close friend, or carer of somebody with a bipolar condition. Our local peer support groups are the core of that. So they're facilitated by volunteers, and we have a number of peer support groups across the UK, online and in person. We've got about 65 at the moment. The Southern Wales ones at the moment are in Cardiff and Pontypridd, but frankly, we want a lot more, and that's part of my mission and why I was appointed 6 months ago. We've also got national online peer support groups for family and friends, for women's groups, and for everybody, whether they be, however they're affected by bipolar. And we have an All Wales one, which runs monthly on the first Monday of each month. We've got a peer support line, and the peer support line is one-to-one volunteer advice over 6 months for people with bipolar, which is confidential one-to-one advice. We've also got a moderated e-community, which is very popular with over 11,000 active users. We've got mood tracker apps. We've got mood scales and mood diaries, which help people track their mood, and that can help with their diagnosis, but also when talking to clinicians. And we're increasingly involved in advocacy, research and advice, including with the National Centre for Mental Health in Wales, where we have an event on the 6th of June, which I will be at, and which representatives of Rotary Southern Wales have been invited to, which again is to launch our Bipolar Commission in Wales specifically. Could we move to the next slide, please? So how can we work together? It's all about working together. We also want to create hope for people with bipolar conditions, and we want to work in partnership with Rotary Southern Wales and across the UK and internationally to help enhance people's well-being. So we have a specific website page for our partnership, which is on bipolaruk.org/Rotary, which I encourage you to go on. There is an opportunity to share our Could It Be Bipolar campaign. There are lots of resources on our website. You can share the video. There are blogs, website, webinars, and podcasts. We have an e-learning course on bipolar. And we also have leaflets and posters, and it would be great if through me we could get in contact to try and distribute those across Southern Wales so that we can actually promote our services and encourage more peer support groups to come into being in Southern Wales. And that's a big part of it. And also fundraising is fantastic. You know, if you can fundraise for us, that would be fantastic. Can we go to the next slide, please? So our local peer support groups, as I say, we've only got Cardiff and Pontypridd. I'd like a lot more than that. So I am hoping that we can restart some of the groups that shut down during lockdown, and also restart some new groups. And some of the towns and cities which I think are good places where there's a density of population where we could do that are Swansea, where we used to have a very active group, Barry, Newport, Cwmbran, Bridgend, Carmarthen, Neath Port Talbot, Caerphilly, Cowbridge, Chepstow and Merthyr Tydfil, places like that, where there is a real need. And one of the things we have to do is attract volunteers, and we need 2 volunteers per location to be safe. So it can take some time to do that. So helping us with our volunteering efforts would be really, really appreciated. If you can also just signpost people to our support services, they're all available through our website. And also there's World Bipolar Day, which is the 30th of March each year. If you wanted to plan an activity for that, it would be fantastic. Could we go to the next slide, please? So that's just a little bit of information about that. We have a fundraising page on our website, which is specifically for our Rotary partnership. And also we're here to support you. So any resources you need or information you need or planning you want to do, if you just get in touch with us through rotary@bipolaruk.org, we will come and give you whatever help we can. Could we go to the next slide, please? And this is really about the difference support can make. The peer support model is about sharing emotional and practical experiences and is sharing information about how to live with the condition, and also talking about self-management, talking about medication, access to NHS services, and crisis and how to deal with crisis, and also better things about how to have fun, how to go to the Sherman Theatre for a trip, or to go to the Brecon Beacons for a trip. And that shared emotional experience and the ability to be in a safe space to do that, where it's entirely confidential among people who have a similar experience, is the foundation of what we do. And it is so effective, and there's research to prove that it is effective. It's about able to share those thoughts, to reduce the isolation, and also to reduce the stigma in a non-judgmental atmosphere. So that's what we're all about, basically. Next slide, please. So what do we want to do? Well, like Rotary, we want to create hope in the world and improve people's lives. Our mission is to empower everybody with bipolar to reach their full potential and their fulfilling lives. So that's what we want to do. We want to make more impact. We're on a mission to grow our reach across Wales, across the UK and internationally. And we are committed to doing that. And we are really excited about our partnership with Rotary, Great Britain and Ireland, and do hope that we can work together to help save lives and enhance people's lives. So if anybody has any questions, I'd be delighted, but I'll hand back to Mary probably now. You're mute, Mary.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. That's a pound in the box. Thank you so much for that, Helen. That was really informative. Mike Rye from Cardiff is asking, how can we physically help?
I think that's fantastic. So physically, we have a Cardiff support group. So in terms of physical help, I think it's about reaching the message. So one thing that is difficult for me is we have a charity that consists of about 25 people. That includes our chief executive and our deputy chief executive. And we have one person specifically for Wales. So I have to try and do a lot. And so one of the things that I'm really, really keen on is spreading the news about our peer support services and encouraging volunteers. Now, I can do that digitally on the Welsh volunteering websites, but actually getting around the GP surgeries, the pharmacies, their wellbeing hubs, the libraries, and putting up our posters in Tesco, Asda, Sainsbury's, Lidl, you know, just to get people to see, because digital's fine, but a lot of people with bipolar conditions find digital life more difficult, and it's going to places where they actually go for other support, where we can actually do that. So if people can help distribute those leaflets, if I can pop them in the post to you and give you digital copies and help give me ideas about where, you know, we might do that. I mean, I have a set in my bag wherever I go now. I go and stick a poster up when I'm at the supermarket, if I'm on holiday in Tenby or something like that, and I just can't help myself. But that's a rather scattergun approach. So any help we can physically help with that, and also I would love it if you would want to invite us or invite me to come and speak at any of your events in person, or to help with fundraising so that we can coordinate together. That would be fantastic.
That's great. I'm sure the clubs that are online this morning would be happy to have you as a speaker, Helen, and if you go along to the clubs, you could take some posters, and I'm sure that
Brilliant.
they would know where to put the posters in their communities. And please, clubs, think about fundraising for bipolar. Our RI president has asked us to end the stigma of mental health. This is a way you can really help. So I would encourage you all to get Helen to come along to your clubs and really get involved. Thank you, Helen. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the call this morning. If you would like to stay, then feel free to, but if you've got other things to do, then we'll perfectly understand.
I've got to get my daughter back to university for her exams, I'm afraid. So I'll stay on for about 5 or 10 minutes and then I'll go. But thank you very much, everybody. And thank you, Mary.
Thank you, Helen. We'll also send the link to Helen's email so you can get in touch through District Secretary Steve. So thank you very much. I now hand over to Ruth, John and Laura, the community and international teams, for their presentations this morning. Thank you.
Well, good morning, everybody. My name is John, and Ruth, I've been trying to message you. Unfortunately, I hadn't got your details, and you can't message on this system. It's been disabled, so sorry about that. Apologies for Laura. We split our resources this morning. She's actually fundraising in Llanelli, so both of us couldn't do that. So one's here, so I got the looking at the weather, I think she's probably got the best deal. But so Ruth, I'm going to hand over to you, and then I'll come back a little bit with community after you finish the presentation. Okay.
Okay, thanks, John. Morning, everyone.
Morning, Ruth.
John, Laura and I are all relatively new to these roles in community and international in district, but we are very, very keen to establish a bank of projects that the clubs can share with each other. Ian, could you share our PowerPoint, please? If we can go on to the next slide. Now, Phil Dyer has already mentioned that we have a new action plan in Rotary, and the key message is that we are working together to take action and create lasting change across the world, internationally, and in our own communities. So we feel that this is really a key issue for us. Next slide, please. The Rotary Action Plan has 4 main priorities. Again, Phil has highlighted these before: to increase our impact, to expand our reach, enhance participant engagement, and increase our ability to act. We feel that increasing the participant engagement is really, really critical to us in our project in the clubs. Whilst we recognise the benefits that all our past activities have had, as Rotarians and Rotary clubs, we really need to ensure that we continue to do good in an ever-changing world. So to do this, we need to think about the projects we undertake and how they can help us to do it. Next slide, please. We thought about what makes a successful project. And first of all, it needs to be sustainable. Do we have enough time? Do we have enough people? Do we have enough resources to run the project going on to the future? Does it involve as many people as it can? Younger people, groups in the community. It'll make it more successful if we have more people to help, obviously. And is it well publicised? I think if you've been listening to Maggie Abbott, you know how to publicise an activity well. But as Rotarians, we often hide our lights under a bushel. So we thought we should stop being modest and share our ideas. So we asked all 59 clubs to send us details of what they felt were successful projects they've undertaken. And we're going to share some of those ideas now. Some of them will be familiar, and hopefully there's some new ones as well. We're going to begin with the community projects. And there's Holly, who is the mascot of the Cardiff Clubs project to wrap up Cardiff. This started with Steve Jenkins in Cardiff Bay and spread very quickly. And it's aimed at bringing warm clothing to people in the community. Many clubs like Llandeilo run a know your blood pressure session. This can be done at any local event and it can maximize its use. It can identify people with high blood pressure problem and can save lives. I'm going to ask Steve Jenkins to say a bit more about the Tiny Forest now, because it's a project that they've been running very successfully in Cardiff Bay for a while.
Thank you, Ruth. Yes, very quickly, this is an ecology project. The intention is to grow a little forest of allegedly 1,000 trees in the space of a tennis court. Keep Wales Tidy planted the forest, but they'd overlooked the need to weed it on a regular basis, and that is where Cardiff Bay Rotary stepped in, and we've been doing it now for 2 years. It gives us a great opportunity to be out and about on the barrage, where there's a huge footprint of passers-by who stop and chat to us as we do basic weeding. Basically, it's no more than that. But the Welsh Government has just announced £2.6 million worth of funding for 100 new tiny forests around Wales. So I'd encourage anybody to go for it if you can. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Steve. It's a great example of how Rotary can be seen in the community too. And our next project also is a very good community project from the Rotary Club of Porthcawl. And I think Andrew Singer is going to tell us something about this, the Christmas Post. No, he was there earlier. I can start by saying it's something that they've set up to run at Christmas, obviously. Local businesses sponsor the venture. They sell Rotary stamps, and Rotarians and their families sort out the post, and it's delivered by a member of the club. Then if we can move on to the next project, it's from my own club in Brimau, and it's community hubs. We've been very fortunate in Brimau that Tai Calon, our local housing association, has set up community houses in 2 of the housing estates. We work in these clubs in connection with the police. We have many volunteers from our Rotaract and Interact clubs, Rotarians and other local activities. Michelle is on the call, maybe she can add something to that if she'd like to. But at the moment, the hubs are a base for many, many activities. We run food banks from both clubs, both hubs. We have youth clubs, we have warm hub and soup lunch, community pantry, craft clubs, gardening club, and in the Brimau house, they recently started a children's clothing exchange. So that the houses are always very busy, give Rotary a lot of publicity and develop the skills of the local community. We could have the next slide, please. Some clubs told us that they ran successful activities with their schools, and these are a perfect basis for the future, for keeping Rotary going and for keeping our project going. Cardiff in the Vale College has become a corporate member of Cardiff Bay Club, and that's given lots of benefits on both sides. And in Llandeilo, they run a very successful food co-op, food bank, and in fact they have 2, one in Llandeilo and one in Ammanford. And in conjunction with Robanu School in Carmarthen, they also run a food bank from their school. So the children purchase the food and sell it, and the club has donated a bench for their shop, which you can see on the next slide with their lovely poster telling everyone what exactly they do. Photo of the children delivering the food and the bench they've donated. Moving on to the next slide now, refugee projects. These have been a major district-wide project over the last 2 years, obviously with the Ukrainian refugees and refugees from other parts of the world. So Rotary has raised lots of money, and various schemes, too many to list here, have been run by a lot of clubs. For example, participation at Ryla, purchase of bikes and laptops for refugees. One of the Cardiff clubs gives gift vouchers to the children at Christmas. transport to events, swimming galas, Christmas parties. I could go on, but we're running over time already. But refugee projects are a great link between community and international ventures. And what we're trying to do is to have some more joined up Rotary, make less work for everyone in the club by all being involved on the same kind of project. Moving on to the next slide. International projects the clubs have told us about. In Knighton, they run a very successful awareness raising session at the local farmers market. And that's a good example of us getting seen in the community so everyone knows what Rotary is about. Frugal meals for Mary's Meals. Some clubs, instead of having their normal meal, maybe can't just have a soup lunch and put the money they would otherwise have paid into Mary's Meals, and that gets children education and food throughout the world. Cardiff Bay and Swansea and many other clubs run a microfinance Kiva, where a small amount of money is given to someone in the developing world to help them set up businesses. The money then comes back to the club and can be reinvested. And in Cardigan Bay, they run a successful link with a Rotarian in England to help Sierra Leone. Now, this Rotarian is able to get based on a flight every month to Sierra Leone so that they can ensure that the aid gets through to where it's needed. On the next slide, we start to tell you about some of the clubs. We start to tell you about some of the projects clubs contribute to in an ongoing way. Sightbox is an activity which is developed from a school's activity again to create a box of sporting type equipment to help blind and partially sighted people abroad. And Rotary Club's water projects, formerly Life Straw, which as you know is one of our Brimau projects, but has moved now into the district, and now that Chris, our chair, has moved to Torquay, is also involving Rotarians in Devon. And we provide straws to produce clean water throughout the world. A personal straw can give one person enough water for 1 year. The family model gives a family, a community can also serve the community. But the new model, the Max, can provide water for up to 400 people a day for quite a long period of time. And this through funds that we raised recently within the district and beyond. I've done a lot of work in Pakistan, as you can see in the picture there. And the next slide, please. More ongoing projects. Tin on a Wall. This is a monthly collection typically. People put non-perishable foodstuffs to be collected on specific days by volunteers, and these can then be donated to food banks. Adopt a Station is a new one being run by Transport for Wales. Clubs can adopt unmanned stations and look after the station, maybe maintain hanging baskets, etc. And the club gets a sign to recognise their work there. Global Site Solutions is Rotary Doctor Bank next provides funding for volunteer health care workers to travel to developing countries and provide teaching for medical professionals. Global Site Solutions is an avoidable blindness charity which is run by Rotary. It works to establish sustainable eye hospitals in the developing world. And Shelter Box, Foundation Giving, and End Polio Now are well known to everyone. I'm sure I don't need to say any more about that. We have the next slide, please. And as we said before, it's very important to publicise our ideas. How can we do that? We can tell Maggie and the public image team about them. We can use social media, as Maggie Abbott told us earlier, and we can use newsletters such as the Humanitarian Team newsletter. The newsletter on your screen is a digital newsletter produced by Rotary Club of Knighton and District, and they also have a paper version, and Kathy is very active in getting everyone to know what they're doing. All 59 clubs in district do loads of projects. If we can get them all publicised on social media, in the district and in local news, it'll have a lot more impact. But we're still looking for ideas. good places to look are the Rotary Showcase, which has many ideas for past and current project, and Rotary Club Central. We looked at both
Can
of
I just
these.
comment about those ones, Ruth, please?
Sorry?
Can I just comment on that point?
Yes, of course you can.
Okay, because one of the things that we have noticed is that people do tend, or clubs are becoming have become very territorial about their projects. It's almost like, I don't know if you've had the experience where you go to a company or you're visiting a school or something and they say to you, go and make yourself a cup of coffee. So you go into their staff room and there's a whole load of mugs and you think, which mug do I have here? Because otherwise I'm going to have somebody else's mug. And it's a bit like the projects. So we need to be sharing those projects. And these two examples here on the screen now are ways that you can put all your information up there, what you're doing, how you did the project, all the positive stuff. So other clubs can look at it and they can say, yes, we can do that. We were looking for an idea like that. Because sometimes projects can be like a minefield. And the safest way to cross a minefield is follow somebody else. Thanks, Ruth.
Thanks, John. And also it was pointed out to us when we were looking for these projects by some secretaries that they spend a lot of time putting details into Rotary Club Central, and maybe people are not looking for them. So if you're not sure how to do it, you just go to My Rotary, as Maggie showed us earlier, and you go to the Take Action tab and then Develop Projects. This takes you to Rotary Club Central and Rotary Showcase. On Rotary Club Central, we tend to only see projects for the current and previous years, but the Rotary Showcase keeps them on for quite a long time. So as John just said, you've got lots of details of how the project is funded, what has been done, and they'll give you ideas so that you don't have to start reinventing the wheel. The final slide is just another one of how to put your project onto Rotary Club Central, not Rotary Club Central, Rotary Showcase. I think that's just about an end of our whistle stop tour. At this point, I was going to ask Ariane T to tell us a bit about Kids Out. Unfortunately, she's been called into work this morning, so she can't do that, but I'm sure she'll be in touch with the clubs via email. I'd like to wish everyone the best of luck with their projects, and please, please, please keep sharing your ideas with us, with Maggie, and on Rotary Club Central.
Thank you very much to both Ruth and John for sharing their community vision for the district. If you have any projects, please don't keep them to yourself and share them with the team so they can share with Maggie. And if we can help in any way, then please don't hesitate to get in touch.